The discussion for this evening will be marriage, relationships, and family. And to discuss this very important subject, we have our presenters, and to our right, we have Imam Basim Muako of Masjid Muhammad, Bermuda. And to his right, we have Tracy Sharif, a parent and wife. To my left, we have Maida and Mukhtar Abdul Jabbar. This is a husband and wife duo here. So we have a very balanced group of people, and I believe tonight is going to be very beneficial. So call your friends and tell them to tune in, because we have something that's worthwhile discussing tonight. Before we get into the meat of the subject, oftentimes we just don't pull subjects like this out of the air. We have people questioning, why are we having half of marriages ending up in divorce? Why do we get married in the first place if we seem to not be taking it as serious as we should? Are we really giving attention to each other and making those connections that's supposed to guarantee endurance? Because if we get married, it must be a plan. Or could it be that we don't have plans? And that could be a problem of why the effort is not what it should be. These are only a few things that's out there that we speak about in our private quarters. But tonight we're going to broaden it and have us all to hear what we think. And hopefully we will have something to work with after we hear what we think would be best for our future. So I'm going to begin with Imam Basim Muako. And I want to say this, that this program is presented by Masjid Muhammad, Bermuda. And all of us around this table, and I have to declare that we're all Muslims. So you have a good gauge as to what would be the basis of what you will hear tonight, because we should be measured by our beliefs. So, Imam Basim, we're going to ask you to kick off the program like you normally do with your opening.
Thank you, and good evening to the audience. Perceptions for progress. Insights and sensitivities for progress. Wanting progress is the reason why we're having this conversation. In reading the Quran, we find that whenever God sends, or God or Allah sends guidance to man, there's a strong resistance to change. In fact, they say this is the way we found our fathers worshiping, or this is the way we found our people living. Meaning they made themselves slaves to a system. And the answer from the messengers or the prophets was usually, you and your fathers are in error. Marriage. What is marriage? We normally define that as coming together of a male and female. And herein lies the challenge. Two different personalities with many ideas trying to merge. It seems that most accidents happen at junctions, or someone trying to overtake the other. Not to say that marriage is an accident. Indeed, marriage is a natural part of life. So the junction should be designed where there is less chance of injury or conflict. And one should know the rules of the road. And who knows the rules of the road better than the one who created us? He has given us the rules of the road for marriage and for all of life. In our religion, nikah or marriage means to tie the knot or to make a contract. That contract should have in it what you want your future life to look like. or a support system for your future lives. So marriage should strengthen the human family. I heard someone say not too long ago, people say they want this or that, but when they see how much work it takes, they respectfully decline. The Quran reminds us, do not marry those who associate partners with Allah, those who think themselves self-sufficient, those who do not see God's way as a better way, a better guide to life. In saying God's way, we need to be clear that we are not talking about man or anything in creation. We are talking about the originator of all that exists, the seen and the unseen. Don't marry them unless they believe in God. And there's also a saying, it is better to marry a believing slave than to marry a disbeliever. Mm-hmm. One of the descriptions of husband and wife in the Quran is that they walk side by side, proceed gradually, with the male slightly ahead. That is, thinking of the protection and the full maintenance of his family, being a guardian. This is what stands him up as a man, his ability to take care of his family. One of the misunderstandings of marriage is that the legal documents that says you are husband and wife, people have the perception that it says, I earn you. Therefore, we take on the name of the male partner. When that idea comes into marriage, the dominant partner becomes, at least in their mind, the master, and in most cases, the other partner becomes the rebellious slave. And we have to admit, all areas of our life has been affected by slavery, the way we found the culture we are living in. So where do we merge? Where does the marriage take place? How do we get to a place where we respect the rules of life? How do we get to a place where we respectfully engage? By acting on or looking to the word of Allah in the Quran. I must say, I got a dose of reality when looking up this subject. In that, wherever I looked in the Quran on marriage, it spoke of acting justly, with fairness, hold as equal, balance the scale, do things willingly, graciously. If you can't do justice, then don't marry, because all must answer to our Lord. In marriage, in the Muslim marriage, there's such a thing as a dowry. The man must give or promise his wife to be a gift. The dowry, this must be a gift with thought behind it. Because dowry comes from the word sadaqah, to be truthful, sincere. You have made a promise. Now work hard to establish it. Show that you are truthful and sincere. Another word for dowry was salaha, to reform, to improve upon a theme, make things right. So our right as males is to make things right, put things in order. And the women have the similar rights. Throughout the Quran, Allah pushes us to do the right thing, be just in all matters. Even in divorce, we are to be just, because God knows the corrupters from those who make things right. The coming together of male and female produces life, not only human life, but industry to support the human life. The two main concerns of the Muslim is, one, that he is pleasing his Lord, and two, that he is not injuring his own soul. And the Quran lays it out that we should avoid both. And that will be my introduction.
Wow. Much to chew on, much. It would be I would not be doing justice if I was to take lightly the idea or the definition of marriage. We have people in the world, we are Muslims, but people don't measure their lives by us as Muslims.
Understood.
Okay? And we have a community that, like you did stress, came out of a way of life that in some cases being questioned could be seen as going the wrong direction. When you refer to your fathers going the wrong direction, obviously
Fathers meaning the community in which you're born in.
that's okay. Well, that's exactly what I want us to see. When we know that the Quran has addressed the idea that something was going wrong, and it was something before the ones that are being looked at and the ones that's being asked to follow an example. So I believe that at this point in time, knowing that every community that we are sharing in our society is suffering from marriages. Marriages are failing in every community. We cannot sit here and think that because we have such a very honorable basis of how we should be looking at marriage, that we effectively put marriage into effect. So in that context, I look at the importance of marriage and what should be the attitude. Being you mentioned rules, which I think is something that we must have clear in our minds when we think about considering marriage, because what are you going to be following? Should we be, how should we be following the rules as to leading up to marriage? How do you, Miss Tracy Sharif, how have you seen that idea of the implications, knowing that you're in a marriage, you're in a family, you have children that will be married? How are we looking at the lead up to marriage and the conditions that these children's minds should be, or people's minds, because I don't just call them children. Then we're talking about entertaining marriage, we're not talking about children. We're talking about taking on women and men responsibilities. And I try to get that right as quick as possible. So how would you address that, knowing what you've heard thus far on this point of marriage?
I guess I would say, rather than looking at it as the word they use now is institution, marriage is an institution, I look at it as marriage being a gift or a contract of agreement between two spouses that are looking to develop and aim to develop good family relationships, be a part of a community, and be good examples in the respect that you're enjoying being married. It's an enjoyable contract between the two parties involved, and that you're aiming and you're setting goals for progress. Meaning, you're establishing goals between the family, raising children, developing good relations between yourself and your children, your teamwork. I look at it as teamwork. Everything that I do is always surrounding teamwork. And I look at it as a gift. It's a gift from God that we actually have this as a priority in our lives. I think from 6, 7 years old, sometimes you say, I want to be married when I grow up. That's something that we kind of aim for. You wanted that princess kind of life, to have a family, to raise children. Like you said, in the society that we're in now, that's changed somewhat because people have been disheartened from some examples that are before them, or maybe they don't have the understanding of where marriage can actually take them, or what marriage can do for them.
Yes.
As far as developing themselves.
Okay.
So I like to look at it as teamwork. You find a spouse compatible, and everybody who thinks that there's going to be perfection in marriage, they have a great misunderstanding, because you develop yourself as you go in years. It may take years. We hear of couples married for 65 years, and you think, wow, am I ever going to get to 65? Don't look at it as, am I going to ever get to 65? Think about it as, what can I accomplish in the time that I do have in working together with my spouse?
You making that point, and you touched on it a little bit, but I believe it has some weight to it that needs to be looked at a little closer. When we think about how naturally we look at marriage, when we say we all want to be married.
Yes.
Many of us know that we see our children gripping up little babies, doll babies, or they want something that seems to duplicate what they see in the mother and the father, and they start acting it out as children. We've seen that over and over and over. So it's been, that expression has been a proof that it's natural for us to have that honorable union. That child, without them hearing it, they have it in them to want to express it, particularly when they see it wholesomely done in the parents.
Natural.
So children demonstrate it because they have a natural drive that they end up later on having to understand. But at this point in time, because we seem to have such confusion as to standards in society, this child that may have this honorable family environment at home, and we know the influences of many words can confuse many adults, let alone young people. So our children are not getting the continuity of message when they look at society. As much as we know that we are accepting what would be the best approach, but our children are receiving it in a very difficult way. And I'm going to look at this young couple over here, and I say that because I watched Mukhtar. I watched him when he was born, and I watched him develop. Man with a wife, and is about to have a child that's going to get married. That's wonderful. I say that because those are the things that we should be proud of. Now, with you being the younger of the group that's around this table, how would you say marriage has impacted and what you tried to address, knowing that you're now in that marriage and you're now guiding your child at this point? What would you say about your experience?
Firstly, I would say that marriage has helped me to grow and has brought the best out of me. Has brought the best out of me. Because firstly, marriage is, like Tracy said, it's a contract, but it's under God. You know, both parties, both people in the marriage has sworn under God. And I have to put God before my wife. She has to put God before me.
That's a good point, because many people put their ideas and thoughts or their friends or the communities ahead of everything. This is what you should do. This is what you should do. He done that to you, or you do that to him. You know, so that's a good point you brought out there.
I think it's an excellent point, really. Out of the gate.
Yes.
I mean, out of the gate.
Yes.
So, but I think about what we seem to have in our background, and this is not to point to any one of us. I'm talking about
General.
But I think about what's caused me to survive 50 years. I feel so good to know that the words that I started off with still drive me today. Before I got married, the words that my wife and I uttered in considering marriage still drives me today. Because we said we're not getting married to be divorced. We started out like that. I didn't get to know God in the early stages of my marriage. I grew into knowing God and that contract. But wanting to be married for me was, I got tired of being less than who I was. And I always knew that I should be taking on the next stage in my life. So to be accountable for family was automatic, because my family structure said that to me without thinking. So when I decided that, hey, I need to now be more responsible, then we put the question to each other as people that had already been drawn to each other, we want to be honorable now. And if we're going to be married, why are we going to get married? And what are we expecting out of this marriage? That was the conversation we started off with, man. It was so strong, I remember even where it took place right now. That's how much it affected me. And still today, because it was so well motivated, I didn't know how much that question was going to serve me, knowing the religion that I ended up with. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because to now know that I started off on a good foot. I did not know how good that foot was.
I guess you had a contract. Your contract was based on, I'm not getting divorced.
Yeah. And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know? But here comes what...
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you kept that contract.
Yes. And to understand that good intentions oftentimes brings out the honorableness in human beings, period. And to know that that now associates with our religious guidance, oh man, that is something. So, but I'm saying that to say that, hey, I didn't come through this idea of looking at marriage without its challenges, because I lived a life that was not looking at marriage in a good way in my early days of my life. That was in my environment, it was in my family, it was in me. I didn't get it in my early days, mate. I had to now examine it and want it to be better, because I said, when I get married, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. So when I think about the children today, knowing that the standard of marriage is even worse now than it was before, even though we're still getting married. But what draws us to marriage now is almost, it needs to be answered. So, Maida, when I think about you being a mother and you having a background and you looking at marriage, what would you say to a young person today that would be enough for them to reconsider as relates to comparing what we know is in the environment and what we know would be better for us as individuals?
Well, I can use my daughter for example. I just had, I had to tell her that marriages have a faith. And I also had to tell her, because the young people, they do have this idea of marriage, of what marriage should be. They think about what they see on TV, what they read in books, and all that stuff.
Yes.
But once they actually get into a relationship, they realize, hey, none of that stuff is real. This is real life. So I think for me, what I had to do was I had to help guide her along the way, to show her exactly, okay, this is what actually happens in a marriage. This is what's going to happen in your marriage. You're gonna have arguments. You're gonna have moments when you feel like if you hate this person. You know what I mean? But it's kind of difficult to explain. But I think it's just trying to separate the fiction part of it from reality. You have to know what reality is, and sometimes you won't know it until you live it. So I had to constantly tell her, you know what? It's not about, don't ever feel like if you have to give up. Live through it. Put a law first. Just live through it, pretty much. That's pretty much what I just had to tell her.
Now, knowing that, and you mentioned that getting to know each other, they're getting to get to know each other, they have to do so and so, or the relationship is not as fictitious as this TV and all that. So here it is, we need to at least understand what these young people are going through in their concept of how to get started in a relationship, because we know that this world out here, they test the food before they buy it.
Yeah, I think the issue is a lot of them are afraid of commitment.
Yeah.
I think they feel that if you're young, you don't have to be committed to anything because you're trying to find out who you are.
Yeah.
And you can't take on somebody if you don't even know who you are. So that's the idea that they have. Oh, I have to find myself. I have to live my life before I take on somebody else. But I think they fail to see that you can do all that and still have love in your life. You can do all that and still stay committed. You can do all that and still complete half of your faith. You know, I think a lot of them there's just a little fear of commitments. Yeah.
And knowing that our children, our families are not in isolation. We've got a community that's around us, and we're asked in our religion to be the example for the community. They're supposed to see the best of ourselves in our honorable dealings. We're supposed to be honorable. We're supposed to be doing things in the way that our Creator has asked us to do them, in the way that our Prophet Muhammad demonstrated them, peace be upon him. And we're supposed to show by example that we have accepted, want to practice it, and now we're demonstrating it. Now, that's not always that easy because of what we see as results. So when I think about a young child or young person getting started today, when we think about what they are dealing with when they leave the door and go out, they're dealing with things that's very conflicting as to what we know is in our best interest as individuals or as special, meaning of our immediate family. We seem to know that, but we're mingling with other people. Our children have communication and relationship with other people, even if, because we're asked that we marry believing people, not that we have to marry Muslims, believing people, those who believe in God. And if they all understand God the way he should be understood, believing people get along. But when we have a conflict, then there lies a problem. And our children are not exempt from this. So I'm hoping that we will get the audience to see that the things that are troublesome, that's causing many of the friction and the separations in marriage today, where we have this very ridiculous half being ending up in divorce, half of marriages ending up in divorce, that's a frightening statistic. That's not progressive. So when I think about how we're surviving as families, individuals, you know, when our children say, I'm looking for a mate, but I can't find one. They're not measuring up. Do we marry our children off just to be married? Or should they restrain themselves until they're ready to do it the way it should be done? Amen. I know our religion speaks to that. And we should be holding back and restraining ourselves if we can't afford marriage. If we can't discipline ourselves, we should get married rather than go and commit adultery and things like that. These are the types of things that we know is pressure on an individual, male or female, because it's human nature to want to satisfy our urges.
That's true. That's true. And but what it is what is the standard that is set before them? We don't see a standard that is set. Again, for those who believe in God, when we talk about being just, being truthful, being sincere, being honest, doing the best you can willingly, some people may have a standard that is too high. Many people have a standard that's too low. But we have to look within the guidance of God and say, because it says in the Quran, you should marry, or God doesn't want you to even suffer any injustice in your marriage. So you married according to, you give according to your standard, your wealth.
Yes.
You know, there are poor people that marry, there are rich people that marry. But some people are poor, and then they look at other examples of life and say, I want this, I want that. And they only got $30 a week in the pocket, you know, instead of living according to what they have, or even working towards, how am I going to get that what I want out of life? They don't think about it. They think it should come instantly.
I think we can encourage people to look for the tranquility that comes with marriage, the peace that it actually brings when two people are made to enjoy being together and enjoying making progress, and also being responsible at the same time. With young people, with a lot of the, you got to go out there, you got to find out who you are, you got to check things out first and what have you. If I think they are guided in the direction that, or they are made clear that, like Maida said, we're not perfect adults. We will make mistakes throughout our marriages. But the end goal is to basically cover each other, protect each other. Then at vulnerable points, that's when we should actually embrace each other more, because we know that we're imperfect. So we're not setting out to make mistakes, but if mistakes do happen in marriages, you work through that, through the compassion, through the willingness to remain intact, through the willingness to get past the hurdles that you're coming up against, and being the best examples for those who are looking on. I think, Brother Cromwell, you said, in this society that we're living in, some of these things they don't even see anymore, or the children don't witness. They don't get to witness those beautiful relationships. The loving mothers and fathers who brought them up or raised them. They see the divorces and they see all the frustration that the parents are having and what have you. And now it comes to a point where people might just be marrying for wealth. They may say, well, I ain't marrying nobody broke. I'm marrying somebody that's got money. But if you're a God-fearing person, Allah provides. So, like you said, it's better to marry a believing slave than a disbeliever, because someone who believes is going to always have faith that things are going to improve and that things are going to get better. And that's why in the mature stages of marriage, you may have your most difficult times, but as you get more and more into the years of that marriage, it becomes progressively easier, because you get a better understanding of what your roles are. What is your purpose? I think you need to understand. This is a priority for us. This should be a priority for us. If we're God-fearing people, a priority for us, like Adam and Eve. He gave us the example. He created Eve from Adam and dispersed. Now it's so many of us. We all come from this same seed, so to speak. So, we should be looking at that example and wanting that for ourselves and wanting to grow our families. I love large families. I love these guys and I love the family. To me, it's nothing better than a large family, because you have so much more embracing, so much more support, so much more love. And, I have families that argue, come back, it's over. We're back to hugging again. This is what we should be experiencing. We shouldn't be experiencing revenge. He did that to me, I'm going to get him back and do that to him. That's not healthy. It's not progressive, and it doesn't bring tranquility to our lives. So we should be looking for tranquility and stop trying to outdo our partners or be that perfect person. We're not perfect. We will make mistakes.
So what do you think of the idea of, because that's what I see. I see once people are married, people try to things change right away because they have the idea of there's ownership.
Competition,
I earn you now, you're mine. And I think that, a lot of what we experience, because we haven't really, as Muslims, investigated our religion, and I guess as Christians investigated their religion, and what does the Quran say, what does the Bible say, and deal with it from that point of view, because I've seen it,
And you get people who try to change a person, once that's not how
that's
you found them. Why are you trying to change them? And that, that becomes overbearing for the person who you want to change, because now they feel frightened, or, they feel like, why are you trying to change me? This is how you found me. But like Brother Ma'am said, you got to have that understanding. You have to know what it is that drives us forward to work through what it is that we have to work through and become better. I love the way Mukhtar put it. It brought the best out of him. What more would anybody want than for somebody, a partner or somebody, to bring the best out of them? That's something that we should all be striving for.
And that is something I had read in the Quran. It's the word is I think it's karma. They use that also as a dowry to stand up. So when we become responsible, it is God who stands you up. Because you have fulfilled the mission that He has given you.
And faith gets us through everything. We know that if we are going through a difficult time and we pray about it and we ask for some guidance, we get that guidance in most cases if our prayers are sincere.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy. You still have to just have that faith and hope and pray that it comes to fruition, what you're looking for or what you're asking for.
Being on that trajectory, I latched on to when you brought out the term having faith, right? Mm-hmm. And my mind went right away into what faith is based on. Mm-hmm. You just don't have faith. Faith just don't come out of somewhere. It's connected to something. It derives from something. Mm-hmm. And what went through my mind right away was, along with that faith, you're practicing your religion, because to have faith, you got to have works in there. You don't have a good outcome of life without the work being put in. You just can't have a belief and an understanding of how you should be, and you sit at home and do nothing. Or you leave your partner to go out and do it, and you don't do it. It don't work like that. So here it is in understanding our responsibility, because our religion teaches us that marriage is half of our religion, fulfilling half of our life. Getting married is to take on and now find the essence of the other half of your life. Man, when I first heard that, I said, man, what's in that other person that I need to make connection with to see the best in me? Because God said, when you get to meet your wife, then she brings the other half out of you. So what is it you need to see in your wife if you're to see the other half of yourself? Oh, that sounds wonderful. What? So here it is. To have faith is to know how to practice your religion. So when I think about what happens when we see our children doing better, it's because they see a modeling of our understanding that seems to be improving upon what it is it should be. And here it is, they got something to measure up to now. They saw a history that says the things that made it difficult, that caused half of the marriages to be in divorce, it's all out there. You can see it. And now you can see this one person or this one family that's showing something that has honor wrapped up in marriage. Here it is. You're being told you shouldn't just look at the flesh. There is something more important than her flesh or his flesh. There is the inner person that's going to cause you to survive when things get difficult. When you started getting angry enough to think that, how you put it, you hate this person? Boy, boy, that struck me when you said that, No, but it's real. I get it. That's why. Look, that's why I'm taking it in, sister. It is real, because many of us don't say that we get to that point where, because hate becomes out of control. And out of control causes damage. Verbally first, and then physical. So if and when we don't keep control of that, we don't get to balance things out. If and when we have what I describe as differences, find a way to get beyond differences, because it's okay to be different. But do we understand what comes along with this, man? And that's why, man, I'm so proud of this person on the left side of me, man, because I've seen him grow, I've seen him develop, I've seen him construct his life, man. And that's our future. Yes, we got to talk about this. We are not just having a reality, we need to point to that reality and what that reality represents. Because if we're going to make progress, we're going to show both sides of the equation. What wasn't working and what is working. What's the attitude that it seems to be troublesome, and what's the attitude that seems to be making progress? Unless we become real with these children or the next development of our communities with that idea, we're not going to get it right. We've got to be honest about this stuff, man. And that's why when I thought about what allowed me to say, look, It doesn't matter who you are. You're not going to get in between the aspirations of this family. We have some goals and objectives, some big aspirations. I may have blood, but if this blood is getting in the way to hurt my family, there is a cutoff. You can't come in here and destroy the future of the family. You can't absorb and take on a family member as being your confidant and your friend when you know their habits are destructive. So are we willing to want to see that side of how things are so as we talk to our children like this? Because they're in this reality. And I often wonder, man, because I'm lost now. I really don't know what's going on in this next generation. It's so distant from me. I'm having a problem because it shouldn't be like that. Because we're supposed to be passing off the baton. We're supposed to be in communication. So here it is. People are so different and they're moving in so many different directions. We're not communicating like we should. So we don't understand. And so we can't. If I've got something to give to Mukhtar, I can't give it to him because it's distant. I've got something for him, but not got the relationship to receive it. Not saying you're like that. I'm saying that's how we ended up as people. So I'm certain that our children are facing that as we speak, man. So, and I know you're not in isolation. You're out there. One guy told me he's afraid of marriage. Yeah.
I think there's no longer an element of surprise in anything anymore. Most people have ventured, into so much that there is the compassion, the feelings, and all that sort of stuff has disappeared. Yeah. There is no element of surprise anymore. So they feel like they may not have anything to look forward to. So hence the discouragement. Yeah. Hence the, I'm not interested in that because already they've been either washed away by what they've seen or
they've done so much already.
They've done so. They feel like they've lived, but yet their hearts are not at peace. They still feel that uneasiness inside of their bodies. They still feel that something inside is not right. They don't feel complete, and I think a lot of that may have to do with the fact that they may not be putting God first, for one, and then finding out what it is that's required in order to bring about that feeling, and seeking that out. Just it's never any one answer to anything, but each individual has to figure that out, I guess.
Yes. And I'm so concerned because we're seeing people and they look at a person who may consider religion as being the worthwhile system that they want to follow. And people see religious people as different rather than just humans who've decided a choice of a way of life. They're no different than any other person. They've chosen religion to be their guide. Now, people now today, they make religion look like if you want to give them counsel, I don't want to hear God's name, or I don't want to hear spirituality. I don't think I need to be Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, as though to be a religious person, you get extremely good, that you seem to be in trouble with yourself if you get that good. And people say, hey, man, one guy told me one time, he stopped coming to my barbershop, not because I wasn't cutting his hair properly. He said, man, your standards were so high, man. I was feeling bad, man. And I couldn't be around you because it was affecting me. And I wanted to relieve myself because I had double standards when I came around you and saw what you were about and what you talked about and what you were trying to project. He said, I felt guilty, man. So I couldn't be around you, man. He told me, and this guy, I'm telling you, he's my peers. He's the same age as me. I said, wow. And he stopped me in Hamilton when I was going about doing my business with my wife. Got out of his car, pulled me on the sidewalk, and that's what he told me. I said, man, look at that. So we're not just talking about young people. We're talking about an environment where people are so confused about what standards should or would be better and what would be accepted. And it's obvious that the greater society has accepted what's not good because the results are showing it. It's not my opinion. The statistics says there's more failure than we've ever seen. And that's to say, and I want to say this before I go any further, we have some good families, we have some good people, we have some honorable people, but it's so few today that we're having problems knowing who they are. Because one time ago, it was so much good that you felt like, hey, you just can't act any old way around these people because they know what's expected of you. There were so many people looking for you to do good. You felt as though like you couldn't do just anything around your parents' friends because you thought they all thought the same and they were looking for me or you to do the best thing. It was so much of that that we guys didn't do it out in the open. We hid it. Now you could do it out in the open and people say, it's not my hands are washed of that. And I often want to hear from the next generation for them to say what's really the stresses and the pressures that's on them, that's preventing them from choosing, even when they know better, because our children come up in our homes. They know what we try to give them, even if we're not the perfect person you're talking about. Yeah. We're not perfection, we're talking about trying to be upright. Our religion says, try to be upright to he who originated the heavens and the earth. Just try to do that.
I think we beat up on ourselves a lot too. We definitely beat up on ourselves a lot.
Listen to what Tracy has said earlier concerning people not really having standards, not really having feelings, meaning that they don't seem like they could reach a standard, or the standard really doesn't matter. So what is it in their life that, even if you say that, there is a standard that is set. That's why you feel that way. There is a standard, and it's a natural standard put in each individual by God. And if we don't see the examples around us, then we're going to get disappointed. One of the things that I often think about is people who see God as a man, and their man makes so many mistakes. And so...
Say that again so the audience can hear that, brother. I don't want you to go across that too quick. Repeat that again.
I say one of the reasons I think people have problems because they see God as a man, and man makes so many mistakes. But yet he tries to put himself out as perfect. In religion, no matter what religion, you know? And so, instead of admitting that, okay, I think this is a problem for many people in the world, that they see God as a man or an object, some sort of object. And they can worship that object, but yet they don't know where to turn. Meaning they see this man who says, well, I'm an imam, I'm this and that, but he's making so many mistakes. And he's not really pointing them to the God. He sees himself as the standard, but he's not really pointing them to the God. And he makes so many mistakes, and people see the mistakes. So they're confused.
And I want to make clear, to make clear to us, that Muslims don't see a man as God. Correct?
Absolutely. One who says is Muslim should not see a man as God.
Yeah.
Or the prophets as God, for that matter.
That's right.
So God has sent the standard. And so prophets are sent to men who call out to God. And God sends some prophets. He sends some messengers. This is how you should live your life. This is what you're doing wrong. But then they've been in it so long that it's very difficult to change.
I've always said the Quran has come to correct all that has been before us. I don't think enough people have ventured into what it is that they are being guided by. And we have people who are lost, and some people don't know. And then we have those who, as they say, you have old news. Bring yourself into the new news. Bring yourself into what it is that you should be guided by, as opposed to having misunderstandings or falsifications of what it is that you should be guided by. So I think our community are afraid in a lot of ways to face that truth. We're always concerned about hurting someone's feelings because we should be compassionate, we should show forgiveness and things like that. But topics that we never want to talk about are things like that. We've had conversations, is man God? I think it's been in the World Gazette several times, is man God? And the responses, mostly from the Christian community, to say this is who he is. But very seldom do we get the responses from the Muslim community to say, no, he's not God. This is what we are guided by, and this is the Quran. This is the guidance that the Quran gives us. It's shirk to worship man as God, yes, to associate partners with God. Yeah. And those are the conversations that we probably should be having, yes, to bring those truths forward and to remove all of those misunderstandings. I don't know what I would do without Islam. Islam brings so much peace. It is what it is. It brings so much peace to my life that I pray that I am somewhat of a good example, because I'm not perfect. I make mistakes just like anybody else. But that the example that I set can be an inspiration for someone else. Just like Maida and Mukhtar as a young couple could be an inspiration for young people to know that there is hope in getting married at a young age and having big families and large families, with the hope that our community support that. Not a community that shuns that or says, marriage is not something we should be looking forward to. We should be encouraging this. We should be encouraging young marriages for couples before they become, as they say, tainted or
a whole bunch of baggage.
Yeah, baggage and things like that. We should be encouraging these connections, these relationships. Allah has created us so that we get to know one another. Then this is what we should be practicing. We should be practicing this. It's not an easy road. It's not going to be easy road for anybody. Like you said, Brother Cromwell, you set out in your marriage to say, I am not getting divorced. The first thing I looked at when I got married was, is there divorce allowed in Quran? Because I felt like I was about to be entrapped in some way, shape, or form. But when I saw the compassion that even the Quran speaks to, as if to, if you are in a position where you are extremely, unhappy and things like that, then there's a place for that, or there's, measurement for that. But it's not restrictive, because we have to do our part. We have to know who we are. We have to understand the Quran, the guidance of the Quran, and move forward with that in our hearts, with the good intentions that come with marriage.
In that, and someone thinking of divorce, in general, the Quran speaks of oppression being worse than death.
Worse, that's right. So you're in a relationship and you're unhappy.
So no matter what you're in, if you're under oppression, you don't have life. You're not living.
The suffering being oppression.
Yeah. So the idea is that you fight that oppression, and death may be a better option for you.
Yeah.
If oppression is worse than death.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about death, you're talking about getting rid of that thing instead of oppressing you.
Yes.
Don't take your life.
Yeah. Get rid of the oppression.
Get rid of the oppression.
There should be no compulsion in marriage, the same way as no compulsion in religion.
See,
no compulsion in marriage.
I'm so real. I'm glad you wanted to cut in here, because I want to come this way.
That's right.
But I don't want to cut in towards your husband first. Not only for one particular reason. Knowing that, see, men have a double jeopardy in society, particularly with black men. We're not seen like other men. We've been vulnerable because of the image that we have of ourselves, the history that's behind the image that's of ourselves, and what has been lacking in support of man being able to carry out his responsibilities. The society has been a double jeopardy on black men. When it comes around to marriage, in our Islam, men are the maintainer of the family, of women first, then the family.
Yes.
What is so strong about this that really puts a real test on a man. There is no reason why he should alter what God said when he said he is responsible for making sure the survival of that family becomes a reality. Not the woman. She has no obligation to put anything down for her to survive. Now, that don't mean she will not do it. That will be her choice. Yep. But she's not obligated. Now, with that in mind, I do know for a fact, mate, many of us don't accept that. Now, I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to say, I know for a fact our young people, when they get to see how families been functioning, and they get to see some stuff that's contradictory to what we know our religion says, I know that young people like you guys were having conflict, regardless if you were saying it to us or not, as older people. But I'm certain that you were thinking about those things. I often wonder, what is it that you ended up with, knowing these contradictions that you saw that needs explanation?
Well, firstly, like you said in the Quran, Surah Baqarah says, men are the maintainers of women.
Yes.
Men are the maintainers of women. So if you are the maintainer and that is your responsibility, you as a man now have something that's greater than yourself.
Yes.
You know, right now we live in a very, I say, like a narcissistic society.
Yeah.
Everything's about me, me, me.
Yes, yes.
You know, so, you know, as a man, you need a purpose. You know, you need something bigger than yourself, you know, God and your family.
Yes, yes.
You know? And that right there will help you to, that'll make you push once you know there's something bigger than yourself, you know? And so, yes, well, is it difficult? Yes, there's lots of challenges. There's lots of challenges trying to provide for your family. You know, is it going to be easy? No. Who said it was supposed to be easy? You know, what scripture, what book does it say it's supposed to be easy?
Easy, yes, yes.
You know, you don't gain strength through things being easy.
But it does say after difficulty comes easy.
Yes, no,
yes.
After difficulty comes ease.
First.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the uplifting
You know,
part,
but-
I think,
Yes.
is the best.
Yes.
But
So
once-
it's
Let him finish.
Okay.
I think he's on a good point here.
I
Hold it.
yes. So so we need something bigger than ourselves for us to push and grow as individuals.
Okay.
You know, if you don't have a purpose, you know, you're lost. You're lost. And yeah, I think another thing that we tend to forget now is that, you know, the family structure is the foundation of society. You know, once if your family structure is in shambles, forget about it. Everything else is going to come crumbling down as well.
Yes.
You know, so if we have children that aren't being brought up in a decent family structure and they're going out into the world, it's going to be more difficult for them moving forward because they're missing some of that foundation. You know, you'll get so far, but it will be more difficult for you.
Yes.
You know, like, for example, you could send your child to the best school, but if they aren't getting what they need at home,
Yes.
you know, it really isn't going to have the best effect.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So everything starts in the home. You know? And going back to the father, the man as the provider and the maintainer, that also gives him, like, if you're responsible for something, that also gives you, if you are held accountable, like, I don't know if you ever heard the saying, accountability without authority is slavery. Yeah, you can't have all these responsibilities, all this accountability, but no authority. It's slavery.
Yeah, you ain't got no say in the matter.
Yeah, you're just putting in all this work.
Yeah.
So for example, captain of a ship, right? He's responsible for the whole ship. Yeah. Because if anything goes wrong, he's responsible for every life in that ship.
Yes, yes.
But that's why he has an authoritative position. Yes, because of the level of responsibility that he has.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Excellent.
Very good point. No, she was biting at the bit. I can't get back to you right now, brother.
No, I was just saying that, we got married young.
Yes.
And I think
And
that
you say young.
in our teens. We got married in our teens.
Say it for that audience. What that teen age was.
I don't say.
No, seriously. For the viewers out
We got
there.
married right out of high school.
Amen.
No, that'll give you an idea. Yeah. Right out of high school.
Okay.
So I think that it's good to have standards going into relationship, but I think sometimes people forget that your partner isn't going to always have those standards immediately. And it's about patience. When I got married, I had standards. I knew what I wanted in life, but I also knew who I was marrying. And I knew that my young husband couldn't give me everything that I wanted then and there. So 20 years later, he's still hitting certain standards that I had set, that I wanted in my husband.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's about patience. Some people just give up, like, oh, you know what? He's not there yet. And then also it's about he's a great provider, alhamdulillah. But we've struggled at times, But as a wife, you have to encourage. You have to show that you appreciate in order to make your husband do more. So it's about just working together and knowing and growing. I know we talked about not wanting to change the other person, but it's not changing, it's growth. And I was there as he grew, he was there as I grew, and as he became that man, I made sure that I stuck behind him and he stuck behind me.
Yes.
So he was able to get there, and alhamdulillah.
Our religion says that we are covering for each other.
Yes, clothing for each other, yes.
And that term clothing, I was going to bring that in. That covering can be looked at as clothing. And how many of us, if we thought we were decently dressed or formally dressed, then what does that say about our partner? If they are our clothing, our covering, when we hit that spot of describing the value of our clothing, that says a lot about partnership. When we see, just like this, some of us like the clothes we buy. We would hate to know that we spent a lot of money on something that wasn't worth anything. So we end up with clothing, and then we end up recognizing the value of that clothing. I think we treat it pretty good.
Yes.
And that's what's so beautiful about that very simplistic approach. When we get to understand what's the essence of these things, when we say our partner is our clothing, we just don't see them as a physical image. We see what's the driver, like Maida said. What is it that's being shared in this union? Because they say in our Islam religion, which is so wonderful, 50%, the woman is the 50%, the man is the 50%. Bring them two together, it makes a unit, 100%. We don't come with one person 100% and another person 100%, making it two. The marriage is a union, and a union is one. You become one when you become sharing responsibility and fulfilling our objective as what makes us a balanced partnership. So, brother Imam, you can say what you have to say at this point.
I remember. No, he was saying, bringing out the there's something bigger than yourself, and that's true, and that is that spirit that is within us. And once we go after that bigger than ourselves, then we produce the results that God wants us to have.
Now, with you saying that part, what is it that God wants us to have? Do we really get it right? If so, what is it that causes us to be failing?
God wants us to have paradise, meaning a beautiful, a wonderful life.
Yeah.
In this life and the next life. And from our point of view, we're going to only get it by following his guidance.
Yes.
Or following what he put within us naturally. Mm-hmm. So some people grow that way naturally, you know? Even if they don't hear about God, they know there's something right, there's something wrong.
Yes.
And if they go for the right, the bigger thing that was in them, okay, you know what? I that's what I want. I don't care what anybody else. This is what I want, and I go after that. Then I'm neglecting everything else around me. Yeah. Just because my focus is so narrow, I'm focused, but it's narrow. I think it's big, but it's narrow.
Yes.
I look at one of the attributes of marriage as being righteousness. I think that righteousness should be a large part of one of the attributes of marriage, because like you said, you tap into your spiritual being. It's amazing. It's amazing what you can accomplish and what you can do.
You saying that I'm driven to read this piece here by our Imam W.D. Muhammad. I should say a very respected Imam, W.D. Muhammad. And it goes like this. Our religion tells us to not pick a mate out of lust or out of sexual desire. Mere sex is no grounds, no justification for taking a person into marriage. If sex is the main motivation, then that marriage is not due respect. What should be the main motivation is the question. It should be decency for intimate relationships. It should be decency for intimate relations. One should be looking for decent company and decent involvements. One should look for the qualities there that will support the life in the home being good and even better. Man, when I read that deal, I said, boy. Go ahead.
I read a story online. I'm going to see if I can recall it. Just listen to Mukhtar and Maida talk there. This couple, they got married. And the lady said she was happily married for 3 years. And then she got somewhat disillusioned because she was a romantic and her husband wasn't a romantic. And so she said, I talked to my husband one night and told him how I was feeling and all, you know. I like to have roses, I like to have this and that. She said, listen, if I wanted a flower, would you, and this flower was in a dangerous place, and you had to risk your life to get it, would you get it? So I believe he said to her, I would let you know in the morning. When she woke up, he was gone. And she saw a note on the table, so she started reading the note. She said, I wouldn't kill myself for you, because if I killed myself, every time you go on the computer, you mess up the program or something, and you ask me to fix it for you. I wouldn't kill myself, because he started naming off all the things that he does for her, you know, and she started to cry. And at the end of the letter, it said, you know, if you still want me, I'm outside of the door. And she opened the door, he was there. So sometimes we get, you know, the world pulls us away. His living up to his responsibilities. But you may not be getting candies or roses or a new dress every night, but he is taking care of everything else.
Like
you
you
know.
talk about setting standards. Some of us set our standards on those material things that disappear. If we set our standards on the more natural things, like Brother Cromwell talked about, and we set our things not on just emotion, we would last a lot longer in our marriages because those things they take a back seat. They don't become as important. And then again, you get it later. And it may be double what you asked for. So the gifts that you get from that later on is so much more rewarding than waiting for it in the beginning and then it disappears.
Yes.
And I think that's what happens with a lot of the divorces. Everybody's waiting for it to happen in 2 years. The impatience, and they wear off, or the intentions from the beginning are, can you give me everything I want? Not what can I do to help us to get where we need to get.
Exactly.
So I think that misinterpretation of what it is that marriage should be just needs to be brought to the forefront again. And, you know, we need to tap into these things for our community so that we can have this in our community and have our children witness these things. And I'm blessed. My family witnesses this all the time, or my brothers and sisters. My father, you know, he used to tell us, you girls get out there and get married. Don't hang around me, you know. He encouraged that. So if we have the communities that encourage this instead of discouraging it, you know, I think we could be definitely in a better place as far as society is concerned.
I often smile when I listen to people and they say, you're not married, you ain't ready for marriage yet because you ain't got A, B, C, and D. And then when we look back a generation before us, our parents, they didn't have
anything exactly
but each other.
They had each other, and the unity was tight.
But no, everybody say, "Oh, you get your education first, get this first, get that first."
Right.
It's necessary.
And
it's
was tight.
I mean, it's a good thought. It's a good thought, you know.
Alhamdulillah, if enough prayers go out for our community.
The subject being marriage, relationship, or relations and family, which is strong, man. Those three words are strong, man. When we think about what our religion says to us from the start, you don't need to sample your partner in order for you to decide that he or she is for you. You don't need to sample her physically. So what is it that we need to get to know about each other if the sampling physically is not the more important thing?
I think well, in a lot of the Eastern countries, is getting to know the family. The families know each other, and the families know that, okay, they have the similar standards as I have, and so forth and so on. I think that he will make a good husband for you, or she'll make a good wife for you.
The recommendations come.
Here, it's like, no, I'm gonna make my own decision, which is good too. But decision based on what? Here's some experienced people trying to give you some guidance, and we reject it.
So are you saying that Eastern tradition is something that we should adopt?
No. I'm saying that idea of families knowing each other, it's a better idea than me just meeting somebody on the street and getting myself in trouble, and the whole relationship breaks down. Because it's about family too. It's not just about the two people that's getting married. It's about the families.
Yes, also, looking at the bigger picture. Yes, the two individuals, that's the smaller part of a bigger picture.
Because the family plays an important
that you hope will take on your visions and your dreams for them.
Yes.
You know, that even if it's their vision and their dream is bigger than that smaller picture. Yeah.
And when you take out that physical part of the relationship, you get to know each other better because you're looking at the person's character. So you're taking out that physical part, the sex part, you know, and you get to like, okay, now that we know we're not going to do this, we can actually get to know each other, you know, exactly how we want to.
And with you saying that, see, this is where I see it's so important for us to be living our religion, because once the individual is doing what they should be doing, because of we bring different parts to the equation. A female brings what she is to the table.
Yeah.
She has a role.
Yeah.
I'm not, look, man, when I got to see what my wife does as a mother and a wife, man, that chick can run circles around me when it comes around to dealing with children, man.
Natural.
She does so much so easy. I say, man, when she went to the hospital to have my children, and I had to take care of the children at home while she's in the hospital, I said, damn.
Test.
And she makes it look so easy. I went up my mama's house, man. I said, look, man, help me out, man. These children are tiring me out. Anyhow, bottom line is, that female is conditioned by the Creator to fulfill her role. She becomes a partner, she becomes a wife, she becomes a mother, and she becomes a matriarch of the family, and she's the first teacher in a wholesome family. That's a mother, and we need to value her. I didn't say that, God said that. I'm saying that not because Crum was so bright, God said that. So hence the male. So when I think about us not sampling each other, the picture I'm getting is now, what is it that I need to understand about my particular person that I'm looking at? Because I should want to understand, does he understand his role or does she understand her role? We're going to be talking about those things. And if our children are not talking about those things, then what's the plan?
Yeah.
What's attractive to you? What's really attracting you? Because God said your physical body shouldn't be the attraction.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to last.
Yeah.
The quality time, I think, is that's what they need. That quality time, meaning, putting aside all those other distractions and taking that quality time to get to know each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Without necessarily the physical. See what's there without the physical and see if you're still attractive.
And seeing what is in that individual that's not physical, that's attractive.
That's attractive.
Yeah.
What is it that attracts to you other than the physical?
Like we talked about the element of surprise earlier.
Let us talk about it.
Let's have the element of surprise, because that sometimes can drive you.
But Tracy, sometimes that's right out front.
Everyone.
It's not always an element of surprise. Sometimes it's right in front of us, but we're not seeing it.
Yes.
Because our mind is in the wrong place. And then when we get to be corrected, and then we start seeing it a little better, you say, oh, wow, I've been missing this here.
Right.
And like if I had to say something, and I often say this to myself, and whenever I got a chance to repeat it, because somebody asked me the question, what's responsible for me and my longevity in marriage? Is because I got to understand the developmental stages of the value of my wife. The more I got to see who she was, the more I needed to do to respect her and protect her worth. And that made me a better mate. And I know that's the way she was treating me, because I felt that from her. I didn't need to ask her how she felt about me. I needed to know the better part of her, so I treat her properly. And the more I became accountable and responsible, because I really wanted to respect her, God blessed me to see the qualities in her that I needed to keep protected and not mistreated. And it's only getting better. Because that individual never stops growing.
Never.
We never stop growing. So we got 10 minutes left or 11 minutes left. Starting with you, Tracy. What would be your parting words here on this program, on this subject?
I think I spoke to most of the things already. I would love to see our community and our society embrace marriage. I don't like the fact that it can be discouraging for some. I think the encouragement for them to try something different, to see if they can, I guess, be energized to want to be married, or look at it as a priority in the respect that it's it's there for you. It's available for you. How you go about it or how you get to that point of it, it's totally up to you. But I think tapping into that spiritual side of yourself first and pray about it and see what comes your way, and then go from there.
Brother Imam?
I would think we're at this junction again because of the failures, and we need information from a higher source. And if we accept that information from that higher source, then the failures would be less. And even if you still may have failures, but at least you're putting into place what your God has asked you to do. And so even though it may seem like a failure in the family and all, personally, you would be growing and developing. So I think we need to study our books, look at some of the things I brought out tonight because of the translation. Now, if you just look at the translation, you wouldn't see it in there, the English translation. But if you look at those different words when they come out in Arabic.
For the viewing audience, what are you saying about when you say our books and the translation? Make it clear for the audience.
Meaning that the Quran has been translated into English. And most of the translations are 60, 70, 80 years old. There are some new translations out there, but they do their best coming from their culture to give you what they feel that Islam is about. We have to go into the book, look at it, and do the best we can in saying, looking at the Arabic and what does it say? What does it mean? Looking at different Arabic dictionaries, and we will bring out something that the translator has not done, which will be more beneficial to us.
You know, in looking at the amount of times that the term failure came up, I recall a message that I took in when I first heard this. It had to do with a young college student that came home after his first semester, or it was the first year really. He came home summertime, and to start the next year, he explained to me the shock that he got when he got the results of his examinations prior to the end of the year. He was so shocked, he thought that the professor messed up. So because he was so confident of what he thought about himself, he needed to have the professor to clear up why that percentage was given to him when he thought he'd done so well. So the professor said to him, he said, "This is your first year, right?" "Yes." "You came from a level of education and you're on another level of education, right?" "Yes." "You believe that this is a failure to you, right?" "Yes." He says, "No, this failure is teaching you what you don't know." It's not a failure. It's letting you know what you don't know. Because the things I marked with the red pencil or the red ink is what you got wrong. You were so used to the level you were before in the other school, because you're coming up from elementary to higher grades, right? He says, where you are now, those things that you failed in gave you an indicator of what you don't know. You might believe that you are bright because you were used to the successes you had on the other level. You're now on another level of education. And those failures you're looking at is not to be seen as a failure. It's an idea of what you need to learn to go further.
So are you saying that many of us have ideas of what marriage is about, but what God has put in the book, we don't know?
Yes, that's right. And we need to
get into that book to get to the higher level.
That's right. Even when things appear to be at a disappointment, or we think we don't understand, or whatever category we may put it in, which says, you're not got it right. Don't look at it as not knowing or somebody saying you're wrong. Now go to find out why you seem to be where you are for people to assess you like you are.
Well, even in reading the Quran, God tells us to take the best there is. So if you don't understand something you understand, you take that. Until you can get to the level where you understand something else in there. So take the best thereof.
Okay. Mukhtar.
Yes.
What is it that you could say to your viewing audience that you believe that they can walk away with and feel as though they got something out of tonight on this subject of marriage, relations, and family?
Well, I think that marriage has been working for us as human beings for a very long time, and it's gotten us so far. You know, so up until recent, things have been going downhill. We have a high divorce rate and a low marriage rate. So I think we've left something behind. We're advancing in we are advancing in technology and other things, secular, but certain things we're leaving behind in our advancement that we need to go back and look at.
One thing that just came to my mind was someone is benefiting from this divorce rate and no marriages.
Yes.
Someone is benefiting
Yes,
from this. It just didn't happen like that. Someone's benefiting like that. And
Yes.
keep it that way.
Yes. I think there's a direct assault on the family structure.
I agree.
That's my opinion.
In fact,
That's what I think.
I believe you're onto something when you make that point, because it's always been a level of acceptance that actual war gives money to the businessman. They create war because war needs so much to have a battle. To fight, you need so much. A lot of money is spent, and people benefit from divisions. So people have used war for financial benefit. They create disturbances for financial benefit. I believe it's wise for us to consider why people do not really want to see strong family, because they're not looking out for our children.
No.
They're putting every influence out there that's now got our children killing each other. And it's going worse because the society hasn't accepted to be responsible for our children. One time ago, they did. We got 1 minute. Okay, Maida?
I would just say, just stay committed. Stay committed to your faith. Stay committed to your spouse. Stay committed to your family. So just stay committed. And if you stay committed, your partner stays committed, you can't go wrong. Yeah.
Suffer through the challenges, regardless of how hard they become.
If you both are committed, you're both committed to suffer together.
Actually, I was dealing with something just this week where they said there is such a thing, the scholars had said there is such a thing as suffering in brotherhood.
Exactly.
Meaning suffering people know each other. And there is a brotherhood in suffering.
Like Survivor.
And I should want to care for you because I know what suffering can do. Mercy, man. Anyhow, we're at it. We got 1 minute left, and hopefully we've done enough for people to at least have more to think about, and maybe come back and see what is it that we left out, because this is a very broad subject: marriage, relationships, and family. And us having seen family as the nucleus of society, like Mukhtar said. You will not get it right in neighborhood if the family ain't right. And because family has broken down so much in society, society is a reflection of the weakness in family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it hurts. And we should put more attention to it, and hopefully we would encourage each other to at least go into this subject further, because we would be doing a disservice to leave it alone because of his breath. Thank you very much for tuning in.